Hello, Macklin. This is Uncle Dave. It's Monday, and I got a little bit of time at work, so I'm going to review your 20-minute video. I'm going to try and slow down just a little bit, go through it piece by piece, and really focus on the hand rankings that we've talked about, the tier list. So, are you playing appropriate hands in the appropriate spots? And then the questions you're going to be asking yourself sort of before the flop, on the turn, and on the river. So without further ado, I will make a coffee and then get this loaded. All right, got my coffee. Let's see what we got here. Happy to see that you got your software running on your computer. It's going to make your life a lot easier than trying to run it out of a Chrome situation. All right, so that's good. You're looking to find a weaker player and sit to their left. Good stuff. Looks like you've got a good mix of that's clearly your target, or one of your targets. It's going to be playing super loose. You can move a little bit ahead till you get a hand. Okay, hang on, back it up a little. Okay, so you posted your Jack Queen offsuit. Okay, so let's talk about this hand. So Jack Queen offsuit is a medium strength hand. It's a good hand to play in position. It's a good hand to play when you're the first one in. This player who's posted and they're raising early position, this is a little bit on the loose side to be playing this hand. When you look at the tier lists, hand rankings, Jack Queen is sort of in the danger hand zone, so it's not even really technically in a tier. Jack Queen suited is in a tier, but Jack Queen offsuit is a little bit just behind like a premium hand. And one of the challenges with a hand like Jack Queen offsuit, we'll just dive right into some detail, is if you imagine what hands that your opponents are playing that are kind of close in value to your hand. So let's say you have Jack Queen offsuit. Now, what hands that your opponents will love to play that are better than a Jack Queen offsuit? Okay, let's list them. We have Ace Jack, we have King Jack, okay? We have Ace Queen, we have King Queen. So those are sort of the hands that your opponents would like to play that have you dominated, that are beating your Jack Queen. Now, other hands that your opponents might like to play that are in that neighborhood are maybe Queen 10 offsuit and Jack 10 offsuit, and maybe once in a while Jack 9 offsuit. So if you look at sort of other decent hands that you're likely going to be against that are in your range, you have 4 possible hands that are going to have you dominated. So if you flop top pair with the Jack, someone with Ace Jack, King Jack are going to have you dominated. If you flop top pair with the Queen, someone with Ace Queen, King Queen are going to have you dominated. And then if you flop top pair with the Jack, there's a couple hands that people could play that you dominate. So that's why I'm saying it's sort of in the middle of that quality or along the lower side. If you take a hand like Ace Queen, and the reason Ace Queen is in a top tier, where's my tiers? Ace Queen is like tier A if it's suited and tier B if it's offsuit. Because if I ask the same question, if I have Ace Queen, what hands have me dominated if I hit an Ace? Ace King. What hands have me dominated if I hit a Queen? Nothing. There's no Queen that's better than your Ace Queen. I could say maybe Kings, right? But that's super strong hand. What hands will you dominate when you have Ace Queen that other people like to play? You dominate King Queen. You dominate Queen Jack. You dominate Queen 10. Whoops, Queen 10. You dominate Queen 9 if they play Queen 9. And then if you look at the aces, what hands on the ace side are you dominating? You're dominating Ace Jack. You dominate Ace 10. And you're dominating any player that displays a weak ass ace, which is a Ace 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are the hands that you're sort of behind, the premium hands you're behind, and these are the premium hands or the hands that are decent that your opponents are going to like. So you can see the difference between a Jack Queen offsuit and an Ace Queen offsuit are dramatic because there's way more hands that your opponents are going to like and they're going to play that you're going to be crushing. So anyway, we're only in hand one and I'm already going deep. So in this situation, I think folding would be fine. Calling would also be fine. I mean, raising wouldn't be terrible. I mean, it's a very, I'd say, loose and aggressive play. But if you're going to be an aggressive player, there's nothing wrong with, playing most of your hands as a 3-bet. But again, when you're 3-betting here, you're second under the gun, right? So there's 1, 2, 3 players that have position on you. So you just have to sort of keep that in mind. Let's say it went raise and then you were on the button and then it went fold fold. Well, 3-betting there would be a little bit stronger because you have the absolute best position for the whole hand. So you'll have the positional advantage here. The challenge here is 3-betting from here, or even calling from here, is there's 3 players that could raise you, and then you're kind of up shit's creek because you have a medium strength hand in a potentially bad position being against a player that's in good position. So all that being said, you 3-bet and you 3-bet very, very large. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. So you went 5 times the raise. When you're 3-betting and you're in position, you can usually do 3 times. And if you had a very strong hand, I would go 5 times. Again, we're going to be exploitable. So the stronger our hands in a situation, you can raise more. So if you had kings here, aces, ace, king, I'd be going this large. But to get the job done, you could have 3-bet to say 90 cents or $1. Okay, you get this player who cold calls this massive raise, which is again just a sign of a terrible fish. What were stats there? You just clicked on them. You go so quickly. Oh, did it again. Pause it when you do it. 30, 21 or something. So fairly loose, but not crazy wild. Oh, there it was. I missed it. And then you're going to get called by this guy. Okay, so now you're on the flop and you ask yourself the questions. You say, you're on the flop. How many opponents saw the flop? 2. You and 2 players. The more opponents who saw the flop, the more likely someone will have connected to that flop, so the less likely we should bluff. Okay? So 2 opponents is sort of like the borderline. I would never bluff into 3 opponents. I would almost always bluff into 1 opponent. But when you have 2, it's sort of that intermediary space. So it really depends on the next questions. Next question, did you hit this flop? The stronger you hit the flop, the more likely you should be betting. Well, we didn't. Flop is 4-4 deuce. We have Jack Queen. We have 2 overcards, that's it. And then is this flop likely to hit others? So the less likely the flop it is to hit others, the more likely we should be bluffing or continuation betting. So I think the factor that 2 people saw the flop, but this is a very unlikely flop to have hit others, I would bet this flop because I raised before the flop. And you don't have to bet huge. You can bet about half the pot, between a third of the pot and half the pot. And you can think about all the different hands that your opponents would likely fold here, like king, queen, king, jack. They will call if they have any pair that's between 5s and 10s, let's say. But I think because you 3-bet before the flop, I would probably stab once at this flop of about, say, $2, $2.50, something like that. Okay, so you decide to check. So if you're going to be very aggressive before the flop and be 3-betting a hand like this, you have to pair it with some aggression on the flop. You can't just play, if I don't hit the flop, I'm never betting. Basically what's called fit or fold. So the flop is either going to fit your hand or you're going to fold. I think that's too weak to play. So again, that's just food for thought of like you have the betting lead before the flop because you were the one that 3-bet. And this flop is very unlikely to hit your opponents, so that's a pretty good spot to be continuation betting, even with 2 opponents. So your opponent bets half the pot on the turn, and you fold. So folding on the turn is fine. He's betting into two opponents. It's unlikely that he's bluffing there. Okay, 3-4 offsuit, good fold. Okay, let's see what we have here. We have ace-6 offsuit, and that's a good fold with the 4x raise plus a limper. Okay, ace-king in the small blind. We got a limper and a small 3-bet to 31 cents. Because we're out of position here, I would be 3-betting quite large, probably 4 or 5 times this player's raise. Again, our goal is to either win this pot, get 70 cents for nothing, 90 cents for nothing, or get just against this one opponent. So a raise to $1.20 to $1.50 would be a pretty good raise here. Okay, so that is not enough. This tiny min raise, I think we talked about it last time, it doesn't accomplish anything. No one will fold for that tiny min raise. Again, there's not really a hand that would ever want to do this, because even if you had a hand like aces, you don't want to be against 3 opponents. One thing I wanted to reference to, again, give you a video game analogy, is when you're in a 2v1, even if you're much better than them, you're likely not going to win a gunfight because you have 2 opponents battling against you. So even when your hand is very strong, your best course of action usually is to try and get against just one opponent, however you can. So again, I would be going to at least $1.20, $1.30, upwards of $1.50 here. Probably what's going to happen is you're going to get 3 opponents. Okay, so one player folded. That's interesting. Okay, now on this flop, you basically flopped a straight, and you have the second nut flush draw. So you have a very strong hand and a very strong draw. So now you're only thinking, well, you're basically going to your chart and you're saying, okay, the flop. How many opponents saw the flop? 2. Did I hit this flop? You absolutely hit this flop. So the stronger you hit the flop, the more likely you should be betting or raising. And then is this flop likely to hit others? And actually, yes. Yes, it's definitely likely to hit others. So this would be a spot where I think lots of my opponents can have good hands, good draws. I'd be betting quite large, $1.50. A good pot builder here. You likely have the best hand, and even if for some reason someone flopped a little flush or something, you have the king of hearts as backup. So you could hit another heart on the turn of river and have a very strong flush, which is basically the second best flush draw, or the second best flush you could get. I'd be doing a strong bet here. So you went for a bet, which is good. You just bet very, very small, which I understand because, again, you're thinking, I have a very good hand. I want to keep my opponents in. I want them to call with all their crappy hands. But the question of is the flop likely to hit others can also make you decide, if you have a big hand, whether you bet large or small. Because if your opponents are likely to hit the flop, which it usually happens if there's 3 face cards, then you can get away with much larger betting. So I would, again, betting's great. I would just bet a bit more here. Okay, now we're on the turn. Basically, the turn changed things a little bit. So we can look at the questions on the turn. Did the card change my hand value? Did it make it better or worse? The answer is it made it a little bit worse. Did it complete any straight or flush draws? And the answer is no. So I think in this instance, the reason it made your hand worse is because someone with a 2-pair type hand, 10 jack, jack queen, could have a full house. So now, as soon as there's a pair on the board, a flush or a straight can no longer be the nuts, basically, because there's always going to be a possible full house. Now, that being said, it wouldn't scare me that much. The chances of your opponents having a full house still seem very low. So I would continue to bet, and again, I would bet strong, seeing that 2 opponents are called. I would bet about $2.53, 75 to 100% of the pot, and I would just be trying to get some good value here. Okay, betting big, that's great. Yeah, excellent. Okay, I like that bet size. That's great. All right, so I think you played that very well. I would say you'd want to raise more before the flop because, again, let's look at this hand and imagine when he went to 30, if you went to $1.50, right? Maybe this guy calls because he's a fish, but even if he folds and this player calls, there's now going to be $3 in the pot on the flop, and then you're going to bet $2. He's probably going to call because he called on the flop. So now there's going to be a, much larger pot that you're going to take down than you did because of your small pre-flop raise or 3-bet. So again, just sort of always keeping in mind bet sizing. 7 deuce. King 9 off against an early position raise. Maybe fold. Okay, we got the ace queen here, and we have this player who's raising to 26. And again, this is fine. You have a very, very strong hand. Now I like this large 3-bet. With your jack queen suited earlier, it was a much, much weaker hand. Ace queen suited is practically an S tier. It's just basically as good as ace king off, as good as jacks. It's a very, very strong hand. So you want to get lots of money in the pot. I like this large size. And even with that massive size, see, you're still getting a lot of callers. Okay. So now we're in a 3-bet pot against 2 opponents who are out of position. We ask the questions on the flop. How many opponents saw the flop 2? Did I hit this flop? Yes. And is the flop likely to hit others? Somewhat, I'd say. It's a rainbow, so there's 3 different suits. So it's unlikely there's not going to be any flush draws out there. The only real straight draw I would see would be 10 jack and 7-8. So both those could have straight draws. So it's kind of a medium-ish could they hit the flop. So with those 2 things in mind, obviously you have a very strong hand. You're going to want to be betting here. I would likely bet somewhere around half the pot to 2/3 the pot. I'd want my opponents with weaker queens to call because they will if they have queen jack or queen 10, and also players with like a straight draw. I'd want them to call too because we're big favorites against those guys. So yeah, about 50, 60, 70% of the pot, either of those is good. Okay, he settled on 250, just over half pot. That's totally fine. And you take it down, perfect. Okay, jack 8 suited. That would be a hand that if you're in late position, you could certainly raise with it. But being in early position, it's a good fold. All right, another big hand, ace king. So here you can certainly raise 4 or 5 times open. That's totally fine. You could even raise 5 or 6. You're in early position. So sometimes you want to raise larger. See, the idea is like you're betting to compensate for your good or your bad positions. So because you're in early position, you can be raising a bit more to de-incentivize the people in late position from calling. And then when you're 3-betting, if you're in a bad position, you want to 3-bet more to de-incentivize the people who are in better positions than you from calling. So early position, yeah, 5x is great. I like that a lot, especially at lower stakes. All right, so you got 3 callers so far. And okay, now we ask the questions. How many opponents of the flop? 3. 3 opponents. Did I hit the flop? Yes. Top pair, top kicker. And is it likely to hit others? I would say decently so. There's an ace, so anyone with an ace is gonna like this flop. There's a flush draw possibility. There's a little bit of a straight draw, 7-5, 3-5, both have straight draws. Even hands like 2-3 and 2-5 have wheel straight draws. So there's a decent amount of middle cards that are gonna have gut shots and straight draws here. So with all that information, I would certainly bet. I would bet quite large. I would bet probably $2, at least $1.50, somewhere between 150 and 250. Anywhere in that range is perfect. So $1 is just a little bit small. Again, you want to really be charging these terrible opponents. Their biggest mistake they make is calling too much. So you want to take advantage of that, because when you have a really strong hand like top pair, top kicker, you want to be piling money in there. You want to make them call with their ace 7 and their 2 10s or their 7-10 trying to hit a straight draw on the turn, whatever it is that they are going to mess around with here. You want to be charging them when you have a very strong hand like this. So I just recommend betting closer to $2, 250. Okay, now you got one caller. Now the turn comes out. The two main questions for the turn: did it change your hand value, make it better or worse? And did it complete any straights or flushes? And the answer is it didn't change your hand value that much. It completed a straight, like a 7-8 makes a straight, but it's pretty unlikely straight. And it added another flush draw. So now there's diamonds for a flush draw and spades for a flush draw. So again, not that scared of this turn card. It only completes one straight. Same idea. This player called on the flop. I'd be betting pretty big again. $3, $3.50, $4. Any of those bet amounts are great. You want to be getting lots of money in this pot right now. Okay, half pot. I mean, I think you were sort of thinking, I want to bet, I don't know how much to bet. But again, and your opponent has shown no strength. Okay, let's ask the river questions. River questions: did this change my card or hand value, make it better or worse? Did it complete straights or flushes? What are my chances of winning if I show my hand down? If I bet, what are the chances a worse hand would call? And if I call, what are the chances I have the best hand? So those are sort of a bunch of questions in a row. But the river changed it a little bit in that the backdoor flush got there. So now anyone with two spades, or if your opponent has two spades, they have a flush. It's unlikely that they would have a flush here, unless they had sort of ace something of spades. Then they would have top pair on the flop and then would have run into a flush. It did pair the bottom pair, so on the unlikely chance, you got to think your opponent would probably fold a 4 when you bet the turn. So it's pretty unlikely that he has trips. So I would still be very comfortable with this river, and I would likely bet again, and I would probably bet somewhere around again $6, $7, $8, and you know, be likely that you're going to get called by ace 10, ace 9, you know, some other weak ace. Click it, click it, yeah, do it. There you go. Deep in the tank, he's got like ace jack here. Ace jack, ace 9, something like that. It's like, oh, is he bluffing me? He's calling. Oh, he folds. Okay. So yeah, so that was a great hand. The only thing to realize about that is by betting more on the flop, and then by betting more on the turn, instead of the pot being 14, it'd be more like 20. You probably would have been able to shove on the river for your last like $8 or $9. So it's excellent you won the pot. It's excellent you played it aggressively. You did all those things right. I would just suggest generally stronger hands, top pair, top kicker, you would like to bet closer to the size of the pot. But excellently played overall. Okay, 10-6 in the big. 9-7 in the small. So this is a hand we could play for cheap. Obviously having the 5 cents in gives us the half price. So you auto folded that, which I think is a mistake, just because unless you did it after this guy raised, then that's fine. But I think if he had a called, then you can see a flop for cheap from the small blind, no problem. King 6. Fold, that's good. 3-7, nothing to do there. 9-8 offsuit, nothing to do there. 4-5, nothing to do there. 8-9 suited. Again, early position, it's a good fold. If you were again here, and no one's in the pot yet, you could certainly raise with it. Even if one person is limped, you can raise, just try and get one-on-one against that player in position. Again, one of the most profitable spaces to be in poker is to be in position against one weak player and have the betting lead, like be the one that raised before the flop. Like if you can make that happen again and again and again and again and again as you play poker, you're going to be in position, you're going to have the betting lead, and you're going to get against just one opponent. That's hugely profitable. So however you can make that happen in these games, that's what I recommend. Okay, Jack 3, that's what you can do. Queen 6, folded. Okay, probably going to be the last hand. Ace 10 suited in the small blind. So let's have a quick look at this. Hand rankings, Ace 10 suited. It's tier C, so it's a strong hand, good playable hand, raised from middle position and better. It's not an absolutely monstrous hand just because it's the best 10, but there are bigger aces, Jack, Ace, Ace, Queen, and Ace, King, that all have you dominated. But making it suited gives it more value. So with 2 weak limpers, I'd certainly be raising here, probably 60 cents. Your goal is to get either take down this pot, win your 75 cents here, or be against just one opponent. So 60, 70 cents, that would be fine too. You want to make it big, especially because you're out of position. So you want to de-incentivize your opponents. So 50 is a little bit small with 2 limpers and being out of position, but it's decent. Okay, you got 1 fold, that's good. And 2 callers. Okay. So let's ask the questions. Ace, Ace, Jack on the flop. How many opponents saw flop 2? Did you hit this flop? Yes. Is the flop likely to hit others? Not really, especially because you have the ace. There's already 3 aces accounted for. They could have hearts, they could have a jack, and they could have a few straight draws, king, queen. They could have 10 queen, 10 king. You do have a 10, so it's less likely for them to have a 10. So this flop isn't that likely to have hit your opponents, and you certainly don't have a nutted hand, so I definitely bet. I think anywhere like half pot, 2/3 pot is totally fine. Okay, we're cooking a half pot, you're going up a little. Okay. All right, you bet full pot. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's fine. It's a strong hand. They're still going to call you if they have an ace. They're going to call you if they have a flush draw. They're probably going to call you if they have a jack. So I think overall, I thought that was well played. Okay, that's the end. Under half an hour. So I think the review of that is your choices for hands are really good. You're doing quite well at folding your weak hands and playing your good hands. There's just a few leaks within the sizing of your bets, especially your 3 bets. being out of position. The one time I think you had a hand that you min raised from out of position. You want to have a goal. Like, what's your goal in every spot? My goal is to get heads up against one opponent, or to just take it down. And then you sort of have to analyze, well, how many people have limped in already? What position am I in? And adjust your bet sizes accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with raising large and stealing all the blinds and the raise before the flop. That's totally something that is a winning play. But overall, I give that session an 8.3 out of 10. It's excellent, and see you in the next one.